A broke man abandons his wife for being pregnant without control, not knowing she's a lost daughter of a rich man. An interesting story of how a trenches couple moves to a mansion because of a childhood picture. The movie begins with Cletus, a broke, uneducated, soon-to-be jobless husband who works as a gatesman and father of 6. Dreams of being informed that his wife has delivered a baby girl. As Cletus wakes up, in reality, it's a nightmare. Cletus no grief for anybody, even his wife Hannah. We will meet Hannah much later, but for now, please don't forget to click the subscribe button, like, and drop a comment. Let's get back to the story. We see Cletus tap Hannah to wake up as he unbelievably takes the dreams serious. In his words, "Hannah, wake up, you get belle. I see say you born baby girl for my dream." Hannah is confused, so she responds with, "Which kind talk be that? You know how many times I see say you die for dream?" They both go back to sleep as Cletus warned her not to get pregnant, adding that he already has enough. Later, on his way to work, Cletus meets his colleague who recently resigned from the company he works for as a gatesman. His colleague tells him that their madam traveled abroad. Cletus complained of a 2-month salary delay. Instead of going to work, he angrily quits and heads to drink beer on credit instead, which doesn't make no sense because that means he's likely to get fired. But anyways, meanwhile, meet Confidence, a petty trader currently living in the trenches as Hannah's neighbor, and like most yardmates, Confidence gossips a lot. That morning, around past 9 a.m., Confidence sights Hannah from afar, returning early from work. She calls out to her, asking why she's returning so early. Hannah says her madam told her to go, since she's sleeping on duty. Confidence mockingly asks if she didn't sleep at night, but Hannah thinks it's malaria. She presses, but Hannah remains mute, ignoring her questions as she walks away. Confidence follows her. So, since Cletus did not go to work, he returned back to the yard to playing drafts with his friends, Okoro. He tells Okoro about his dream, and Okoro offers to pray for Cletus, reminding him that children are a blessing from God. But Cletus is more burdened by the challenge of providing for his 6 children on a small salary of 35,000 naira that has not been paid for 2 months now. As they continue their game, Hannah enters the yard, surprised to find her husband at home. She asks why he is home, but Cletus also asks her why she was home early. She shares her own ordeal of being sent home by her boss for sleeping on duty. Hannah is concerned as she asks him why he is at home. He complains of his delayed salary, but this isn't a new thing as Hannah warns him of the possibility of losing his job. Despite Hannah's concern, Cletus boasts of his job security, insisting he cannot be fired. One morning, as Confidence is fetching water, Hannah rushes out to vomit. Concerned, Confidence probes, suggesting she visits the primary care center for free services. As they chat, preparing the children for school, Hannah checks if Cletus provided money for their books. John Paul, their oldest son, responds negatively, prompting Hannah to advise them to walk safely to school. Confidence urges Hannah to seek medical attention, mockingly saying it is poverty that makes her think she has malaria. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Is it really malaria or... Anyways, upon entering the house, Hannah confronts Cletus about the failure to provide money for John Paul's books. Cletus laments about his delayed salary, arguing about the burden of child responsibilities. Hannah insists he might be fired from work. He directs blame at Hannah, talking about their large family size and the need of family planning. Their argument continues as Hannah says she's afraid, with Cletus requesting for food. Meanwhile, at the hospital, the doctor delivers shocking news to Hannah. She's pregnant. I knew it. Disbelieving, she insists it's malaria, but the test results confirm otherwise. The doctor advises her to start antenatal care, but Hannah pleads tearfully, begging for an abortion. Despite her desperate pleas, the doctor remains firm, refusing to comply. Hannah's emotions intensify, her tears and pleas becoming increasingly dramatic. Later that day, Cletus arrives at his office gates, only to be met with resistance from the gatekeeper. Enraged, he verbally abuses the gatekeeper, but his efforts are not working as he learns he's been replaced at his job. The so-called job security is now in the mud. Hannah treks back home, consumed by sadness and depression. Meanwhile, Cletus remains at the office gate, hoping for a chance encounter with his boss. When she arrives, she acts ignorant, instructing him to leave. Annoyed, Cletus causes a scene, even carrying a stone in a misguided attempt to intimidate his former employer. Back at the hospital, Hannah covers herself, pretending to be another patient in need of medical attention. Despite her efforts to remain unknown, the doctor recognizes her. Despite her denial, he insists, eventually asking her to leave. Sorrowfully, she breaks down, shifting blame to her husband. The doctor reveals she's 3 months pregnant, leading to Hannah's tearful outburst as she's forcefully asked to leave. On her way home, Confidence notices Hannah's distress and inquires. Reluctantly, Hannah reveals the truth, expressing her desire to avoid another pregnancy. Confidence advises against abortion, urging her to rest instead, promising to send her a bottle of malt through John Paul. Confidence secretly mocks her behind her back as she walks away. In the evening, Papa John Paul returns home bittered to his wife Hannah. He reveals he's been fired and replaced at work. Hannah reminds him of her warnings to attend work regularly, even without being paid. But he argues back, comparing himself to others who skip work. Desperate for financial responsibilities, Cletus wears traditional attire, intending to intimidate his former employers into paying him. Confidence runs to Hannah to relay the news, accusing him of practicing dark rituals at Hannah's arrival. He ignores her plea to follow her back. He persists in his drama performing fake rituals. Later that evening, Cletus lies motionless on the ground, surrounded by concerned neighbors. Okoro calls for help, explaining that Cletus was dumped outside after being beaten unconscious. Rumors circulate that he joined a cult. Confidence fueling prayers for his recovery. Hannah, shocked by the news, rushes to Cletus' side, demanding water. After Okoro sprinkles the water, he regains consciousness, demanding for food, disappointing those around him. They leave him on the ground, returning to their homes. Confidence asks Hannah about her husband's beating and what happened. Casually calling her Mama Ejima, sensing the opportunity, she loudly brings up the topic of pregnancy, but her friend advises against being too direct, unaware of Cletus eavesdropping. Hannah tries to change the conversation, but Cletus is sure he heard something until he directly questions her. Stammering, she finally admits that she is pregnant, but Cletus initially dismisses it as a joke. As the reality sinks in, Cletus blames Hannah for not practicing family planning, leaving her feelings hurt and defensive. Determined to address the situation, Cletus takes her to the hospital to consult with the doctor. Despite the doctor's advice, Hannah hesitates, prompting Cletus' frustration. After the ultrasound, Cletus already asleep snoring, only to wake up to the doctor's congratulations. As the doctor reveals Hannah's pregnancy with triplets, Cletus is overwhelmed and so he faints. Back home, he's heavily frustrated, blaming Hannah for the unexpected news. Despite her attempts to make peace, he stops her, sparking a night-long argument. The following day, Cletus is playing drafts with Okoro as Confidence walks past in search of Hannah. Despite his earlier coldness, he angrily accepts Confidence's greetings as she congratulates him, announcing to Okoro about his wife's pregnancy, though he teases him. When provoked by Confidence, he lashes out, but Okoro intervenes, preventing further quarrel. There, he told him he is expecting triplets as Okoro's joy increased. Despite the well wishes, he still told him he warned him to use protection since he didn't want more children. Seeking a solution to their money problems, Cletus goes for a job interview at an agency, expressing his sadness for losing his job and also talking about his ability to deliver his security skills. Meanwhile, Hannah sits outside, lost in thoughts, when Confidence approaches, calling her Madame Poetry, a nickname suggesting her uncontrollable childbirth nature. Hannah tells her she's not happy. She advises Hannah to discuss family planning with her husband, telling her how important it is. Hannah is surprised to hear that men can also participate in family planning, so she seeks clarification from the doctor. After learning about family planning, Hannah suggests it to Cletus, but he refuses. The next morning, Cletus plays drafts with Okoro, continuously losing until he receives a call confirming his new job. So he leaves immediately, announcing to Okoro about his new job. While waiting at Mr. Harry's home, he's on a call expressing a determination to meet his sister before departing the country. Upon meeting Mr. Harry, Cletus introduces himself, excited about his new role as a security guard. Harry outlines his duties and inquires about his marital status. Cletus, feeling pressured, lies about being unmarried to avoid compromising his salary negotiation. Regretting his dishonesty, he leaves, only for Harry to call the police to search for his missing sister. The next morning, Hannah receives a visitor, returning a picture she sold alongside the bag the visitor brought. Grateful, Hannah thanks her before Confidence approaches, admiring the photo and praising her father for being so handsome. Later, as she enters the house, Cletus prepares to leave, packing his clothes into a traveling bag, intending to share news of his new job with Hannah. But their conversation turns into an argument, and Cletus deceives her, then escapes as Hannah tries to stop him. Curious, Hannah asks Okoro about Cletus' new job, but he doesn't say anything. Okoro calls Cletus, urging him to return home due to Hannah's suffering. Despite the serious tone, they both share a laugh. Confidence overhears and confronts Cletus, pressing him for the address. Showing empathy, Confidence advises Hannah on alternative family plan methods and the importance of self-care for both her and her children. That night, their eldest, John Paul, falls ill. Hannah tries to soothe him with a wet cloth, lamenting over his condition. The next morning, she heads out to fetch water for laundry when Madame Cash, a woman that employs her to wash and sweep her compound, confronts her about her children cleaning instead of her. Requesting a refund of 5,000 naira, Hannah tries to reason, but the Madame Cash's anger flares. The following day, Hannah silently observes a quarrel between Mama Kichi and Mr. Stanley, while they both struggle with a bucket. That afternoon, she shares a meal with her children outside on a mat, and later, she hawks food on the road despite her heavy pregnancy. The next day, Hannah sits outside drinking garri when Confidence approaches. Gossiping about Cletus's behavior, Confidence suggests she returns to her family, but Hannah reveals her mother's death and father's abandonment. Confidence encourages her to look for her father through social media, but Hannah refuses. They continue their conversation, and Hannah offers Confidence her garri, leaving her shocked as she watches Hannah finish the garri without wasting any time. As evening falls, Cletus returns home to his house. John Paul eagerly greets him. He gives him money to buy biscuits for his siblings, bringing joy to John Paul's face as Hannah watches with annoyance. Cletus's arrogance only worsens Hannah's annoyance as he boasts about himself. Their argument fires up, with Cletus taunting her with money, which she refuses, making him angrier. Later that afternoon, Cletus boasts of his friend Okoro about his boss and himself, hinting at a call he makes finding someone but he prays he should not. Okoro, concerned for Hannah and the children, urges Cletus to prioritize his family, but Cletus remains boastful. That night, Hannah falls ill. Unable to sleep, she calls her child to massage her feet, sharing her pain as she seeks comfort. The next morning, Hannah visits the clinic, where the doctor advises her to rest in the hospital, but she insists on leaving for her children's sake. When asked about her husband, she remains silent, refusing to acknowledge Cletus's absence. Confidence's anger towards Cletus intensifies as she sees Hannah's suffering. Determined to take action, she decides to confront him herself at his office. When Harry calls Cletus to open the gates, Confidence seizes the opportunity to address the situation. She urges Cletus to come home and take care of his family. Despite his resistance, Harry intervenes, supporting Comfort's plea. Confidence introduces herself to Harry and reveals that Cletus has abandoned his family. Harry is shocked by this revelation, especially upon learning about Hannah's pregnancy with triplets. Cletus reacts angrily to the accusations. In response, Harry becomes furious, insisting that he returns home immediately to care for his family. Cletus's argument with Confidence only adds to the tension in the situation. Returning home that evening, Cletus is very angry, and he confronts Hannah while she sleeps, their argument escalating. The following day, Cletus heads to work, where his Oga expresses his disappointment at being lied to. After apologizing, Cletus notices a familiar picture of a man and a baby in Oga's office, stirring his curiosity. Realizing the man in the picture is his father, Cletus rushes home to tell Hannah about it. He argues that he's seen the same picture before at Oga's house. In the midst of their argument, he finds the picture, but Hannah tries to stop him from leaving. Despite Harry's attempts to get Cletus's attention, Cletus is focused on his mission. He returns to his Oga's house with the picture, explaining that it belongs to his wife and the baby in the photo is her. Harry's shock prompts him to follow Cletus to the yard. Upon arrival, he calls for Hannah to meet his boss and immediately introduces himself, explaining his mission to find his sister from the UK. Cletus eagerly presents Hannah to Harry as his beloved wife. Harry reveals the complicated circumstances surrounding their father's time in the UK, which led to the loss of contact with their sister. He explains their father's longing to reunite, especially with the 60th birthday approaching. Harry suggests a DNA test, which Hannah agrees to, and Cletus expresses pride in his wife, pretending to be a caring husband. Expressing urgency, Harry proposes to take Hannah away immediately. The next day, Hannah recounts the events to Confidence, who is surprised by the revelation. As they talk, Cletus interrupts to inform Hannah he's prepared food to show his care. Comfort mockingly observes Cletus's attempt to prove his faithfulness to Hannah through words. As they continue their discussion, Harry bursts in, elated, holding the DNA test results that confirm Hannah is 99% his sister. Joy fills the yard as Harry urges them to pack immediately and join him with all their children. The following day at work, Harry instructs Cletus to sit down, addressing him as his brother-in-law. Feeling a sense of pity for Cletus, Harry advises him on family planning. He promises to speak to Hannah about forgiving him. That evening, Harry and Hannah finally sit down together to discuss her decision regarding her husband. Encouraging Hannah to forgive him, Harry also shares their father's desire for Hannah to have their triplets abroad. Later that evening, Cletus lays outside the compound, crying and begging Hannah. He prostrates himself, pleading for forgiveness, but Hannah mocks him and vents her anger. Still, Cletus continues begging. Inquiring about their child's name, Hannah realizes Cletus doesn't know. Despite her anger, she informs him that she asked her father to arrange for him to join them abroad. Overjoyed, Cletus joins his wife inside happily.